What's up, everybody? It is another episode of Point of Jew. I'm going to be interviewing today Dan Nokes, who is a comic book writer, illustrator, creator. I've known Dan for almost, if not a decade. He actually was one of the first people I interviewed. I used to do a vlog about comic books and comic book television series. And one of the first interviews I ever did with Dan was on that, and that was called Speechbox, if you know your THEJHirsch history. So it was interesting to be able to talk to him again. He is in the midst of promoting his book, Chicken USDA Rejected, where he kind of tells the exaggerated stories of his 2-foot tall stuffed chicken getting into all these kind of weird and random scenarios with an interesting kind of inner monologue as chicken does not speak. So it's very entertaining book. And then Dan also does like commission drawings, which is how I kind of ran into him at, I'm not sure if it's a Virginia Comic-Con or something of that effect, many years ago. I have a couple of them up in my office. He does really cool work. So even after you're done listening to him, definitely worth checking out. His Facebook page and his main website, and those will be linked below, so you can take a look and maybe get your own Dan Nokes artwork. Other than that, hopefully everybody's having a good week. I know Thanksgiving is almost upon us, but Halloween's almost upon us, and this year has been kind of like nuts, and everything, at least to me, seems surreal. Time does not exist. It's like it's October already, man. So just been enjoying that, and the colder weather has been kind of interesting. I am a northerner by trade, or by birthplace. That doesn't make sense, but we're gonna roll with it. I'm from New York originally, lived in Ohio for a little bit, so I definitely like the cold a little bit more. 90s, 80s, too hot. I know my people tend to go from New York down to Florida for the weather, but nah, I'm not snowbirding it up. I enjoy where we're at. At the time of this recording, still kind of getting over. I'm a big Yankees fan. If you follow THEJHirsch 42 on Twitter, that's my Twitter. Not taking that Yankee loss very well. The teams are going to be kind of whittled down by the time this airs, but we got Dodgers Braves going on, and Rays Astros. So just a little bit of baseball venting right now. We did not have a good showing against the Rays. Got nothing against them. Hope they beat the ever-loving snot out of the Astros. They're up 2-0 as of me recording this on them, so that's probably going to go their way. Maybe a Dodgers-Rays World Series. That sounds kind of cool. Yankees definitely need to get some better pitching in the offseason. Trevor Bauer, you are probably not watching my podcast or listening to it, but that would be a guy to get. Also, try and get him on the podcast. Probably not going to, you know what? No negativity. We'll see what happens. I keep trying to get great guests all the time. Last week's guest, Ashley Carter, was just phenomenal in terms of, talking to me about gaming and about Twitch and stuff that I don't know anything about. I'm going to have next week's show. I'm going to be talking to a good friend of mine and his buddy who's actually helped me tremendously getting like artwork and stuff for the podcast to get it approved on iTunes and things like that. He actually has resized most of my stuff and just always there when I need him. And that's definitely owe him a beer or something at some point, but we'll be talking to them next week. And so I'm going to keep trying to roll out good guests, hopefully engaging content. But this week's interview was super interesting to me because I love comic books. I love reading them. I love artwork. I love good stories. And Dan is definitely good at crafting that. And he has a very unique personality and sense of humor, and that drives his books, in my opinion. So definitely at the conclusion of this, go to those links, check out his site, order some of his stuff, and I think you will be better for it. So without further ado, Point of Jew interview, Dan Nokes. All right, everybody, please welcome comic creator, graphic novelist, genius behind 21st Century Sandshark Studios. I thought I was going to butcher that. Dan Nokes. Dan, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to where this endeavor finally has us lying up.
Anytime we can line up, it's usually pretty good. It's definitely a little more intimate of a setting versus me trying to chat with you at cons and stuff with everything going on there all the time.
Yes. At least 40 to 50% less cosplayers.
40 for 50% less cosplayers, 80% less Deadpool and Harley Quinn cosplayers.
Yes. Oh man, that's a relief.
Are they all on your enemies list?
The Deadpool ones, yes. I don't have as much problem with the Harley Quinn thing. I think, but and I was like, not all Deadpool cosplayers are bad, but there seems to be a large majority of them. Along, I would say also with Joker cosplayers, the ones that kind of stay in character, even when they don't see like bloody murder 5 feet in front of their face.
Is there like a top 3 of like cosplayers if you could never see them again? That would be just fantastic.
Probably Deadpool, Harley Quinn. No, not Harley Quinn. I have a problem with Harley Quinn. Deadpool. What else? The Joker, and I don't. Those are the only 2 I really have a big problem with. I don't really have a third that really unnerves me.
I think if nothing else comes of this podcast, just the amount of maybe Deadpool and Joker cosplayers that will now inundate you once cons are fully back in swing will probably rise by 20 to 30% right in there.
I mean, I don't have the raw data on that, but I'm inclined not to disagree with you.
We'll see what kind of data sets bring, but I mean, you've done a lot of great comics, Paranormals, The Pistoliers, Impossible Space Tales, but the main thing we're here to talk about, and the thing behind Clucktober, Chicken USDA Rejected. We are now in Clucktober, the third Clucktober, the Recluckening.
Yes, you got that right. You did your research. Yes, when nobody's looking. Yeah, I put out. Well, I did a Kickstarter back in 2019 for a book I was putting together called Chicken USDA Rejected, and basically it was my first full color comic. I think I got one of the reasons I wanted to do the book was the fact that a lot of people, all my other books in the past have been in black and white. And a lot of people equivocate black and white with of a lesser quality. I mean, not everybody, but I would say a large contingency of people equate that. And I want to do something in color just so people will actually kind of give it more of a serious look than a lot of my other past stuff. And also, it's something I've been Chicken. I was something I was probably had set to do since 2015 or so. I did like a promotional poster, like a print I could sell, and it was always with the intent of some point going and doing the book.
Oh wow! So there was a lot of foresight kind of building up towards that.
Yeah, no, I had a good 4 or 5 years to sit there and think about the story, and all of my stories, there's a genesis of it, but after a while, it definitely mutates and gets re-edited and hacked and slashed and stitched back together. Several redrafts from like the original outline that I set apart with any book, and Chicken was no different. I think I want to say my original idea for the story of Chicken was about 70 to 80% different than what the final product turned out to be in this case. That's not typical, but yeah, I would say 70 to 80% different than what it first came to be.
It ultimately came out. So. When when you were coming up, and I know you just said it's 70 to 80% different than the original ideas of what you had for chicken, but what like kind of brought you to coming up, with that character and telling that story? What kind of headspace were you in coming up with everything for chicken?
I guess it started. I guess I have to back up to about the day that I got him. Like my stepfather worked at a county refuse dump, and he brought him to home with him. Like he's one of those guys who would like get stuff, weird stuff from the trash, and just bring it back. Like, oh, this is what I brought today. And one day, he just brought, hey, you want this chicken? Like, I guess. And he just kind of stood, and I washed him off, and I disinfected him, and I put him in my room for a while. And he just kind of stood there. And then at one point, I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna bring him to a show as a joke and dress him up in cosplay. And I kind of liked the weird reactions people got, and I kept doing it just because I kind of liked the social experiment value of it. And after a while, he just kind of became my unofficial official mascot. And then after that, people kept like, well, what are you going to do a comic about chicken? And after so many years, I was like, you know what? I think I've got a chicken story in me. And where I felt a lot of I tend to think I have a pretty good penchant for comedy, but I kind of kept things sort of grounded up until recent. But I think with chicken, it was just something to do that was really an off the rails type of comedic approach, where I was not bound by so many rules. Like I could go in a very absurdist, silly route, as opposed to a lot of my other books where I kind of had to keep at least 1 foot in reality to a certain degree. Like this is like I think the theme of the book in general was taken like a combination of like the Sunday funnies and 70s and 80s underground and alternative comics, sort of combining those themes together, maybe with like a touch of like old 40s and 50s cartoon shorts as well.
That's a good combination. Is there is there any of that, or what kind of comics, or what were your kind of early influences? Not necessarily just for chicken, but in general, like as a creator, what influences you the most, or who influenced your style and direction that you typically take things?
I guess when I was a kid, I was like most kids of my generation, and what was nerd culture in the 80s, which was, Marvel and DC were the big two at that time. And I read big two comics. I'm not ashamed to say that I read big two comics. I fell in love with John Byrne and Walt Simonson in terms of artists. I love Claremont's work on X-Men, as well as like Louise Simonson as a writer. I was reading like the X books and Wolverine and the Hulk. I love Peter David's stuff coming out at that time. Um, I think it was only later that I kind of drifted into, um, I'd say sometime in the 90s, that I really drifted into like outside of that field of the big two. Like I'll say like stuff like Vasquez with Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, Evan Dorkin with Milk and Cheese. I would say those two were pretty big influences in general, and definitely, I would say definitely specifically on chicken. So if your listeners out there, I would definitely pick up Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. That guy went on to do Invader Zim.
Oh yeah.
Also, yeah, and Evan Dorkin. I would say, yeah, definitely pick up Milk and Cheese. He also worked on the Bill and Ted comics in the early 90s when they were still with Marvel. I think they brought him back for the new series as well. But Dorkin stuff was also a pretty big and huge influence.
Look at that. That sounds really interesting. And Johnny the Homicidal Maniac was really good. It just dawned on me after you said that he also went on to work on Invader Zim.
Yeah. I would say also story wise, like in the book, Chicken doesn't talk. He doesn't have the ability to talk, but he has this lush inner monologue. And when I'm writing Chicken's inner monologue, he sounds a lot like Johnny Depp's version of Hunter S. Thompson from Fear and Loathing. So I think that's kind of a trick to writing, is to like get your characters' voices inside of your head and to know how they would like. Plot and story is great, but in terms of characterization, it's like, all right, here the plot and story is there. Now, what is your character going to say or do? And if you know how the mechanics of how that works, it becomes a lot easier to make the story happen.
Is that one of the first steps when you're creating a character or creating a story that you try and nail down, is just what is the voice of this character? What are their mannerisms? How do they behave? How would they react to certain things, and just try to stick to that? Or does that kind of naturally progress and you work on those things as you create the story?
It starts with you coming up with a basic idea, but it can change and it can mutate, and it grows and expands as the story and the book develops, I would say.
That's really interesting. Is there, I know when you first started, you said earlier, it's about 70-80% different than what you had started. Have you noticed, working on Chicken and everything, that is it off from where you originally imagined? And I know you said that there was changes, but is the story or where you took it just completely different than what you had originally envisioned? Or were those changes and things just necessitated based on your writing, if that makes sense?
I want to say it was a good part of it was part of it was there. The idea of Chicken being at starting off at a comic book convention, and then you know, everybody leaves, and then he's all alone. He decides to leave and go out on a trip on the town, and him getting into misadventures that eventually get him into a situation that was way over his head, and the way he reacts to having the things being way over his head, like a comedically, I would say a comedically understated, muted reaction to the situation he has going on with him. That being said, that's what stayed from start to finish. Everything else kind of altered and mutated over the course of 5 years. Because I think, I kind of think I wanted some pop culture, some social context, and some political context to be in there. So when I first conceived of it was 2015, which means there was a totally different president in the White House at the time. So originally, I was going to have, I guess, Obama be in there in some capacity, but it took over 3 years. So by the time I was sitting down writing, there was a totally different president. It's like, all right, that president wouldn't work in the same capacity as the guy that was there in the original idea. So I kind of worked. I never call him Trump in the book. It's a parody, a characterization of Trump. And I kind of like, I'm not going for an overt political message in the book, but I kind of approached him being in there the same way Animaniacs approached Bill Clinton, or Tiny Toons with George Bush Sr. being in the series. He was all the tropes, the generalized tropes of his nature are in there the same way the generalized tropes were in there with say Clinton or Bush with the cartoon. So I kind of worked from that and go from there.
I think that's a fair way to do it. I mean, in all honesty, when you utilize a president or any sort of noteworthy person, in anything dealing with pop culture. I mean, it's somewhat of an elephant in the room and something to be addressed, and especially in comedic tones, like you just said, for what your utilization is, or how Tiny Toons utilize Bush, or Animaniacs use Clinton. I mean, like you said, you started writing in 2015, and story would definitely necessitate Trump would never be utilized in the same capacity as Obama. Those personality types or things that you could exaggerate or utilize to comedic effect are just, definitely very different ends of different spectrums.
Yeah. And the story was kind of a lot different. Like I had a poster that I did, a mock poster that I sell at shows for Chicken. And I was kind of like using that as the story idea and the original concept. And I kind of, by the time I sat down in 2018, late 2018, and started putting a Bible together, that idea kind of no longer had interest in for me. I'm not saying I wouldn't use it in the future. So I think something closer to like almost like a Blues Brothers approach to how the plot and the general story was going to work out was going to be like the way that was moving at that juncture, where like just all these different people were chasing after Chicken. And like if you the inside joke to me is like, if you ever look at like what Chicken is, just a stuffed animal that I have. It makes it all seem very ridiculous, but for me, I found it humorous. I found it amusing, just to see how much I could blow it up over this small, like I said, small, 2 foot tall stuffed animal.
I think that's, a great part of the humor is the exaggeration of it. And like you said, he's a 2 foot tall stuffed animal. I think putting him in little different scenarios and getting him over his head, I think it's brilliant, man. I really do.
And also, it was I want to say more of my past books are mainly PG to PG-13, and this one's definitely on the solid R side. Solid hard R, where there's a lot more language in adult situations. It's not something like it's not outright. I would say it's definitely not like NC-17 with large amounts of heavy sexual and adult situations, but it's there. It's present in the book. Like I kind of wanted to, where when I did Teddy Bear Tales, it was definitely like an all ages thing, and all my self-published stuff, I place some sort of limit on myself in terms of content. Not restricting myself creatively, but like knowing that I didn't want to cross certain lines in terms of adult themes. But with Chicken, it was like, no, let's just see where it goes.
Do you think they'll partially, and I'm not trying to interrupt, but that partially kind of amplifies the humor because of the absurdity of it with those more adult themes with, a 2 foot tall stuffed chicken?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, there's definitely there's a love triangle involved in the book with these 2 women fighting over Chicken. And again, since he's a 2 foot stuffed chicken, it makes it, like, apparently he's like the chicken that the rooster that all women desire, and he has some sort of like long and sordid past with numerous affairs. And again, the context that it makes it, what Chicken is at face value makes it even funny. It makes it funnier to me, and the fact that I sort of explain in like the forward and afterword of the book, at least I guess I tend to think lets the audience in on the joke to a certain degree.
I like it. I mean, it's not the same, but it reminds me sort of it's in the movie and not necessarily in current Marvel, but it reminds me a little bit of sort of the absurdity with like Howard the Duck being kind of like a womanizer and those type of elements and things in those comics as well, to a certain degree.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially like either the more modern incarnations or the original incarnation with Steve Gerber when he was writing and drawing it. Yeah, I'd definitely say like stuff like Howard the Duck was a big influence there. Um, but yeah, no, I was definitely trying for like a more adult theme for this book, just to see where it was going, see what I could do with it, and I think it turned out well. Um, I stand by the work. I stand by the work. Let's say
Stand by
that.
the work. It's well represented. I
Yes.
mean, from what I've seen from different panels and things, that you've shared, I mean, it's very interesting, and you are forever tethered to chicken as well from all the shows that I've been to, and I
Yeah.
think it's an awesome concept. And you're kind of, I guess, to explain a little bit better, what's going into. You're in the midst of Clucktober right now to promote Chicken USDA Rejected, and you're doing 31 days of 31 prompts and 31 original drawings. What was sort of the idea, for this event, and how's it been going for you so far?
It's multiple different ideas. Like I've done Clucktober 2 times before. There's a bigger event called Inktober that a lot of people participate in, and I am using the prompts from the Inktober website, and the way I approach it is all the pictures have to involve chicken in some way. I Within that I have to use, if the prompt is, say, if it's cow, if the word is cow, I have to incorporate chicken with a cow or something like that. It depends on the word. If I use the word, I have to sit there and think of a concept. um I definitely try to keep a sense of story elements, and most of the pictures that I do, um some sort of element of storytelling, because I again, my expertise is that of a comic book creator, or writer and illustrator. So my art is often geared with the aspect, like, it's not all art tells a story. So there's a specific set of skills involved to make your art have a narrative nature to it. So I've been trying to use that with Inktober. But sort of back to point, I've been using it as a way to try and help promote the comic and the corresponding adult coloring book that goes along with it, and maybe some traffic to the site. I've also this year I opened it to sponsorship. Um, Again, like the COVID thing has definitely affected everybody. So for me in particular, being a guy that usually, I would say, typically does anywhere between 25 and 48 shows a year, to suddenly have that source of income cut out of the equation. It, I mean, I was, before COVID, I was still trying to slowly and surely wean myself off of having to do so many shows, to like maybe get it down to like eventually within 3 to 5 years, getting it down to a dozen. I just wasn't expecting it to happen so soon and on such a drastic and hard learning curve. But I mean, I guess to this point, I'm glad that I managed to keep things on, keep myself afloat, keep the company afloat, keep things moving, and come up with some new and interesting ways to quote unquote make a revenue stream keep flowing in.
What kinds of things did you have to like kind of get creative with, in terms of, like you just said, you're not doing as many shows because they're not there to do. What sort of avenues did you kind of go down or try, or what's been a little bit different for you since you've had to do that?
Um, like basically trying to drum up more commission work. So definitely that for sure. Trying to, if I could get myself into like a gig either through pinups, try to do pinups or alternate covers, or short strip pieces for people. I try to do that. I try to do online auctions as well for like older art. Also, I've been doing like live quick sketch demonstrations, which people can like, okay, make a request of, like, I never say you have to do this in order to get a request, but I was like, oh, suggested quick sketches, $5 a piece, and some people will do 5 or 10 or 20, and that raises some money here and there.
Well, that's good. It sounds like you were really good at getting inventive for what you could do. Has there been any indication? I think, just you and I talking the other day. You did a con with Brett a week or so ago.
Yeah, Brett with the VA Comic Con. He's been he's been doing like a comic book vendor. Like people are exclusively selling comics, sort of like private events, not like open to the public type of deals. I think he's doing it to sort of extend a helping hand, and also have like his more dedicated regular clientele have a place to where they can trade books back and forth and interact with one another. And then like the more like hardcore, I would say, like your hardcore comic collectors come in from the local area and pick up some stuff. And I mainly been helping him run that show, because it's mostly like collectors. But I like, I saw a couple books here and there to help out with that. I also did it was called Art Stroll, which was I live in the Fan right now, and it was basically just people setting up little art displays outside. I guess local artists setting up art displays outside their home, or loading their front yards to where people could set up art. And I set up at that, and I did really well for myself.
Well, that's great. I mean, that sounds pretty inventive. Do you think that more things like, well, it's harder to do as it gets colder, but do you think that there'll be more kind of things like that happening? Or do you see maybe in smaller capacities, conventions starting to spring up? I think there's one coming up, not in the not too distant future. Like Roanoke, I think, is doing their con again. How do you kind of see things going with conventions?
Um, I I I see this as a potential positive boon for small one-day shows that are being run out of like hotels and fire stations and very small venues with very small attendance and limited vendors. Like you're not going to see 2 and 3 day like your Galaxy cons, your Awesome cons. Anything beyond, I say anything beyond like 1,000 people is not, and even 1,000 is probably being overly optimistic. Uh, being a thing until at least the very beginning, I would say February of March of next year, maybe, if things work out.
That's fair.
And definitely not back into full swing until maybe at least the summer of next year. Um, but I also see like a lot of online conventions. I haven't quite figured out how to make those work for me yet. Um, but if some enterprising person or group of people finds a way to make that to where it does work for me, I'm more than willing to give it a shot.
I don't know how that would work. I've seen like for the the celebrity people doing like 2 minute meet and greets and stuff like that. But yeah, that'd be an interesting way to go in terms of having like virtual conventions. Um, and I know the bigger conventions, obviously, the more people that you speak to and touch, and are able to purchase your books and your drawings and do commissions. Do you miss the large shows, or do you like smaller fare, more intimate shows as well? Because I mean, I've seen you at Galaxy Cons, I've seen you at Virginia Comic Cons. Do you have preference between the two, or is there good and bad in both, or how do those two different shows in terms of size impact you?
On a general level, I kind of lean towards the Ron White philosophy of things. It's like if you buy my stuff, I like you. And on a specific level, there are things I like about small shows. There are things I like about large shows. Um, I like uh, generally as I like the intimacy of a small show. I like that I'm not screaming over myself and having to fight, uh, having so many things I have to fight for to get the attention of. Because like at a big convention, I think a while back I explained to people like artists, like independent comic creators are and like Artist Alley in general and independent comic creators in particular, where the impulse purchase at the end of the checkout counter of a Comic Con. Um, that we're definitely few to nobody's first stop when they get in there. They want to hit the big vendors that have like the big mountains of Funko Pops or uh, whatever those loot crate deals are, or they want to head over to Celebrity Row and get their favorite celebrity. They want to get pictures with cosplayers. They want to do a whole bunch of stuff, or even if it's artists, it's like a big name, like let's say if a Todd McFarlane's going to be at a show, or a Jim Lee, or somebody's done a big book and had a huge media impact on the industry. Like, and then you get to like somebody like myself who's never worked on a big name title, and they might be like, all right, I got like a 5, a 10, or a 20 burning through my pocket, and they finally get to me, and that's where I've got to that's where I got to go and sell myself. Now, that's a large reason why I tend to like the smaller shows, because like there's so much less that I have to do in order to garner that attention. Because like a lot of those shows don't, they either have 1 or 2 celebrities or no celebrities at all. The cosplayer contingency is there, but it's nowhere. It's not like hundreds or thousands of cosplayers to garner their attention. Um, and eventually they go through all the vendors and they go to the distinct artist alley, and I feel like I have a better chance of selling them. That being said, the downside of that is you can only make there's only so much you can sell to at a convention. There's a ceiling as to pretty much how much you can do there. Where a big show, you're trying 3 to 10 times as hard to try and garner that attention, but there are more people, and thus more a potential to sell your wares to more people as a result.
I gotcha. I would imagine I mean, I've been to both kinds of shows myself, and it seems, also, I don't know necessarily harder because you're getting more eyeballs on you at those larger shows. But I feel at the smaller shows, I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't come across as idiotic on my part. But those smaller shows feel like those people that are there are more so there for the comics, for the creators, versus maybe at the big shows you have people who are less into comics and are more there for some kind of pageantry or to run down to see the celebrities that you mentioned, or take in more of the spectacle of it. Do you find that to be true, or is there still a good mix of that at the larger shows?
Um, I would definitely say there are generally, yeah, you're right. There are exceptions to that. I would definitely say like a Baltimore Comic Con is a good example of a show that still is very comic centric, very creator centric. But as a rule, yeah, it's definitely gravitated towards the media and spectacle and the casual fan end of the pool with um comics and the medium of comics and the craft of comics and um I guess the fandom that would go outside of the casual Big Two fan being a sort of side event to that.
And that makes sense. Is there, because you typically have a hand in the Virginia Comic Con.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of a guy like my official capacity is quote unquote vendor liaison. That's the BS title I came up with for myself. But mainly my job is mainly on site and making everything goes smoothly from the moment the first vendor comes in to the moment the show starts. When the show starts, about 95% of my job is done. I'm sort of I consider myself the AM manager of the Virginia Comic Con, which like I said, it's all mostly pre-show, which is it's difficult in and of itself. I usually get in about a day early, and I help plan out a good 2 to 3 weeks early, or I help plan out. Like Brett's definitely the mastermind of it, but I definitely give my input when I think it's necessary.
Is there, because we were talking about a second ago, obviously the difference between like the more comic centered shows versus the spectacle shows. Virginia Comic Con tends to be more about the comics and creators and things like that, and occasionally a Power Ranger or something to that here or there. Has there ever been a push or any not disagreement per se, but has there been a push to change how you guys wish to do that? Or is it, you have sort of not a show Bible per se, but this is what we want to see out of our shows? Or how does that process typically look like?
I mean, I don't want to sit there and directly speak for Brett, but I know Brett's, like you said, he's definitely wants to keep things comic centric, and he definitely wants to keep it on a smaller level. Like some people was like, well, what you like? I tend to think some people have this conception that like when say when Wizard World came into town, or now with like GalaxyCon having a show, like, what are you guys gonna do to compete with GalaxyCon, or what are you guys gonna do when Wizard World is like? And as far as I understand it, and if you had ever seen Brett Next, definitely talk with him too. He doesn't see it as competing. He's in a lot of ways he's relieved that a GalaxyCon is coming to Richmond. He sees it as a good thing, and he's definitely talked with those guys that operate the show, and they seem to be on a good relationship. He just wants to run a small and simple show with mainly vendors selling off their wares, creators of all kinds coming in and promoting their stuff and selling their wares. Occasionally, like I said, a small celebrity coming in, because like if to run that level of show that a GalaxyCon puts out, we definitely, like I said, I don't know how much attendees paid to get in there, but I'm assuming it's significantly more than us.
It's yeah, there's a dramatic difference, but I'm
but you're getting more from them than you are from not to badmouth our show. It's not badmouthing our show. It's basically saying you're paying, but you're paying for bigger and shinier and with all the bells and whistles that you get with that kind of show, with a GalaxyCon, with an Awesome Con, with a New York Comic Con. You're definitely paying for what you get out of that. And like I said, we want a small and simple show where the local crowd comes out. Like the best way I could equate it is to this: I see GalaxyCon as the Rolling Stones coming to town, and we're the tiny punk rock club that just wants to put out like cool bands with cool music and cultivate that local scene. That's the difference between a big show. The big show that GalaxyCon wants to put is either one better or worse. No, it's a matter of preference. Like it's a matter of preference and how what you can afford and how you want to spend your dollar.
I think it's awesome that you guys exist in the same space because sometimes I like the pageantry. Sometimes I want to go, meet a Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling, and that's what the focus I want to have. But sometimes I just want to go to a show. I want to talk to local vendors and, check out comics and have it be more about that. So I think that, it's amazing that both of those things can exist in the same space in similar areas, just to have in terms of diversity on something to do. Yes, they're comic conventions, but not that one's better or lesser or this or that, but you're getting value either way, whatever you might be in the mood for, or, just to do something different one day.
Yeah, I mean, also, most promoters, I would say 95 to 98% of promoters are at the very least civil to each other, if not good friends with one another. From what I've noticed, both as somebody that helps with the Virginia Comic Con and somebody that's just a vendor that shows, like, they all know each other, and if they weren't civil to one another, every circuit is a small world, and that kind of stuff gets around if you're not. And like I said, most of the show promoters are great people, nice people to know, totally professional, totally civil to one another, and they want to be, because on top of that, a lot of them set up at other shows as vendors, and they want to maintain good relationships with one another.
That's awesome. I'm glad that everybody's sort of on good footing. That's it's good that everybody gets along, and it's good for the community as a whole. Kind of circling, back to everything as well. Regarding chicken, what's left for you in the promotion for Clucktober? And then, once everything kind of wraps up, I know with the books getting out, what other things are you working on, or do you have any other, what other ideas do you see yourself maybe, gravitating towards?
Basically at this point, I'm quickly approaching the midpoint, where we already got, I would say about 80 to 90% of the pieces of themselves have been spoken for. But yeah, definitely, if anybody in your listening audience is out there, we've got a few that have not been spoken for. So if you want to give me a buzz on that, we can put some of those ones, if you happen to like them, in your hot little hands. On the sponsorship side with the ad, we still have some days left that are not claimed in terms of advertising. I want to say we have a good somewhere in the 20s, 23 or 24 days that are already covered. But we got a few open spots left. So if you want to give any kind of, any message to me, we can certainly set you up with a pretty good deal in terms of a couple days where we can list you as our sponsor. I will say this in terms of the content. Out of all the ones that I've done, I'm looking the most forward to debuting day 17. So that'll definitely be the one that I will say, out of all the pieces I've done, that's the one I'm the most proud of.
So day 17 is the one we need to circle on the calendars.
Yeah, day 17 is the one I am the most proud of. There are ones that I am also think I think they're all good, but I'll put it this way: I think they're all good, but there's some I love more than others.
Well, of course. What up until 17, because obviously we won't have hit 17 yet. What's been your favorite one that you've done to this point?
That I have debuted. I think I put a two-way tie. I put up a poll on my Facebook side of which of the 10 days it's funny because the ones I like the best and the ones fans picked as the best kind of differed pretty drastically. The ones that fans liked the most was rodent, I think was the prompt. which I didn't think it was the first 10 days. I didn't think it was a bad one. I didn't think it was the best one. I think it was right in the middle. It was like the C on my grades. I think it was the C plus B minus average of the first 10 days. Where I thought radio was like the one where I liked that, and then the other one was Blades, because I thought that was the one I put the most work into. So those two are my favorites, but I think I think maybe one or two other people agreed with me on Blades, and then I was alone on radio, which was kind of strange. So again, I thought those 2 days were the one of the 12 days I've shown to the public. I think those two were my favorites.
Those were the best. Nice. And am I correct in thinking, the 21st Century wow, I did butcher it finally. 21st Century Sandshark Studios website and your Facebook page, are those the two best ways to interact with you, or where do you best want to drive people to check you out?
Well, Sandshark for sure, because it's the central hub of wherever it's definitely the Grand Central Station of where you can reach me, because from there you can go to all the definitely all the social network type stuff. Also, it links to my Patreon page, which is another nice little. It's not a huge amount, but it's it's enough to where it definitely pays a phone bill, or so I'm grateful for that. But part of the Clucktober promotion is, and I do this every year, I put out all my Clucktober posts 1 day early for Patreon backers. So basically, if you're a Patreon backer on any level, starting at like $1, you get to see all the Clucktober posts first. Like a good 24 hours before everybody else does.
I like the unintentional connection between Buck and Clucktober.
Yes, absolutely. It's unintentional. Unintentional.
I believe it.
But yeah, no, that definitely Sandshark is definitely the central hub. Also, check out my Patreon page. But yeah, if you go to the website first, it'll point you towards the direction of everything else. The web store is also there, where we got you get everything from paranormals going all the way to all the chicken stuff. We still have some t-shirts available, and all my prints are also available there, and you can also set up commission work that way as well.
I have many, many Dan Nokes commissions, and they're all really, really cool. So I definitely would recommend that as well. And I'll make sure to link out everything in the descriptions for the video, so everybody has an easy way to just click and check it out and check out your content. Just kind of on a last note, is there anything else that we didn't go over, that we didn't touch on, that you really want people to know?
Well, I definitely give brief descriptions of some of the other books I've worked on over the years. Like we've kind of scratched on Paranormals, which was, if you're into fantasy, it's definitely in the vein of like Sandman and Buffy and all the modern urban fantasy stuff, but with my own sort of like trademark humor to it. Pistoliers was definitely it was a Western, but it was sort of a Western from a non-Anglo point of view, sort of Manifest Destiny from the not so winning side. Then we have Adam and Eve, Bizarre Love Triangle and the Zombie Apocalypse, which is, it's definitely my best reviewed book. I've had it reviewed in 5 different countries. Basically, it's about a guy running around on a talking Segway with his dog, looking for the woman of his dreams while knowing being pursued by a zombie ex-girlfriend. And the most recent book before Chicken was Impossible Space Tales of the Last Pit Stop. What if Area 51 were a convenience store for aliens? Also, if you guys get a chance, check out my collaborative work with Nick Davis on the Teddy Bear Tales. which is a all ages children's book. The Teddy Bear Tales involves Tristan and his friends teaming up to do battle against the monsters under the bed. Definitely give that a check at Altworld. I believe it's altworld.com.
Okay, cool. I'll make sure to list everything out. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask, is Chicken with you?
He is here, but he's somewhere off in the distance. He's about 7 feet away and staring out a window at the moment.
He's staring forlorn, wondering of his next adventures.
Yes. Well, but strangely enough, my next book will not involve chicken. It will be my very first all prose book. And it will be a historical comedy in the vein of, I'm definitely inspired by stuff like Life of Brian, or A Funny Thing Happened to Me on the Way on the Forum, Mel Brooks's History of the World Part 1. It's called Kevin, or the working title is called Kevin, or the Latter Days of Romulus Augustulus, Last Emperor of Western Rome. And it's basically Romulus Augustulus going under the name of Kevin, and him in his early 40s, or about to turn 40, I'll put it this way, sort of inventing the D-list celebrity biography.
That's awesome. Dan, I will definitely check that out as well, but we'll link everything through. Thank you so much for speaking with me. Always love talking to you. Hopefully sooner than later, I'll be able to hang out with you at cons again. Dan Nokes. Thank you, sir.
Quick plug. I will be at the Virginia Comic-Con in November. I believe it's, and don't quote me on this date, but it will be a Saturday. It will be, I believe, November 22nd, either 22nd or 23rd. It will be a Saturday. It will be at the Raceway. More details to come.
As they come up, I'll keep people posted too. I'll link out to the Virginia Comic-Con in case people want to come and check out comics, check out the vendors, talk with you, have them sign some stuff. It'll be good.
Movie Cat Daddy.
All right. Stay Smurfy, Dan. I'll see you.
All right. I'll do my best. I ain't promising nothing.
All right, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed that. I love speaking to Dan, and I'm sure we'll do like a live episode, or at least record an episode at Virginia Comic-Con, maybe in November, and different scenery versus my wall and my staircase. Maybe that would be a little bit more enjoyable. I don't know. Maybe you really like my wall. Maybe you really like my staircase. I certainly like them. I utilize the stairs quite frequently, and then behind my head is a light switch, which I try and purposefully block every time. There may be, well, not maybe, we'll definitely have some artwork up there eventually, but it won't be like comic or baseball related because this is in my living room, and pretty sure the wife would strangle me, you know, for that. I'm sure also countless other things, but we'll see how that goes. So that would be kind of cool. So I know I brought that up to Dan, and that might be something in the future that we do. I don't know, COVID related, in terms of how cool that is to have a random face-to-face interview in the midst of COVID, and I'm not sure how great would really sound. Hopefully my hand further muffled that on the microphone, so you just got like obnoxious garbled audio right there. I'm sure that's fantastic. Last thing to kind of go out on, it's weird because obviously these shows don't air the same day I record them, so there's a little bit of time here and there. Just about to actually put out the Ashley Carter episode in the morning. So this episode will air a week after that. I think last week after Ashley's episode, we had like 40 some odd likes on the Facebook page, which made me a sad panda. But we're 65 or over 65, so we're climbing up there. So I'm perhaps overly optimistic on my part, or just simply for a new thing to talk about. I will do the drawing at the end of next week's episode, where I will. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but basically maybe like screen share and still have my video up there. I'll putz around with Zoom. I'll figure it out. And so what we're talking about, or what I'm giving away, or what I'm doing, is we're giving away Baby Yoda, because The Mandalorian comes out this month, I believe on the 30th. This is a cute little guy. Has little action accessories. Has a little little ball, the little Mandalorian necklace, the little froggy thing that he put in his mouth. I just bashed myself in the face with a box, which is cool. But we'll be giving this guy away. And basically how the giveaway is going to work is I'm just going to import an Excel sheet into like a random spinny picker thing. So I'm not choosing them. I'm just going to let the spin happen and then kind of pick from there. But how you get an entry, so you can have up to 3 entries. Yes, 3. The finger representation is letting you know that. I don't know which way works better for you, but you can get an entry for a Facebook like. You can get an entry for subscribing on YouTube, provided that your subscription's not blocked, because some people have visible profiles and some hidden. So I got a couple subscribers right now, and I only know who 2 of them are. Or the third way that you can get another entry on the spinning wheel is you can record yourself making a Chewbacca noise and posting it either as a reply to one of my previous videos, or just stop on by and throw it up there with a little brrr. That was terrible. That was literally the worst one I've done in any of these videos, because I've done it every single one. Let's do that again. I think we should, yeah, let's take another take on that of, yeah, you got a little bit longer because I think you deserved it for me botching the first one. So those are 3 different ways you could do it. I have a strong feeling only like 2 or 3 people are going to be bold enough or brave enough to make the Chewbacca noise. You could be one of those 2 or 3 people. Don't be the sheeple, right? Everybody talks about sheeple. Don't be sheeple. Yeah, I'm just shaking my head right now. But yeah, so super easy, barely an inconvenience. I just stole somebody else's shtick. One like, get you one spot on that wheel on Facebook, a subscription on the YouTube, another little spot on the wheel. So you're increasing your chances. And then the Chewbacca video. So there's multiple ways to get picked on the spinny wheel. And then I'll contact whoever wins, and we'll figure out if that's a handoff, if I gotta mail it to you, or carrier pigeon it to you, or put it inside of a teddy bear and smuggle it across somewhere. I don't know how that's gonna look, but we'll figure that out next week, right? So until then, I hope you guys really enjoyed the show. Go back, listen to past episodes. If there's any suggestions, comments, whatever you got, please leave them on YouTube or Facebook, or tweet me. linktr.ee/THEJHirsch get you the link tree to all my links. So if you're confuzzled about how to go on facebook.com/pointedjew, or the random YouTube links that I have to put up until I can claim a brand name page, that's going to be the easiest way to find stuff. And then obviously everything's in the descriptions below. So until next time, hope you guys enjoyed. Look forward to doing this again with you next week. Thanks.